This episode goes out to J. Buck Johnson, who left us a review on iTunes. No, you're very enjoyable and entertaining. Hi there, Garrett Robinson here. Welcome to the 29th episode of the Nightblade Epic Podcast Season 2. I don't know if you realized this, I only just realized it myself when I sat down to produce this episode, but after this, there are only 3 more episodes left in this season of the podcast. I know, right? It went by fast. And it also seems like it's taken forever because 2020. As before, we're going to take a break between this season and Season 3. We'll be off the air for 6 weeks, which means episodes will return on August 24th. And also as before, we've got a special surprise bonus episode for you during the break. There aren't enough outtakes this season to give you another outtake reel, but I think you're going to love this bonus episode just as much. The second season of the show has been just as much fun as the first, and we can't thank you enough for being here. Now, even more than when we started the show, we hope it entertains you and provides a little lightness in a world that can get pretty overwhelming. Okay, now it's time for today's episode. Today, you're getting chapters 38 and 39 of Mystic. When we left off, Lauren and Annis had tracked down Zane as he tried to flee, only to be found by Jordell and his squadron of mystics. Enjoy! Mystic, Chapter 38. Lauren drew up, and her hand dropped to her dagger. Zane muttered a curse. "How did they find us?" said Annis. "It must have been Jordell," said Lauren. "He has some skill with tracking, and if he found our boat on the shore, it would have been no great feat to follow us from there, especially since we wasted so much time at the mercenary camp." "And here I thought I had made a clean escape," said Zane. "Do you jest?" said Lauren. "You wander about like a drunken bear cub. I could have followed you blindfolded." As the mystics drew nearer, Lauren saw Jem riding behind Jordell. The riders slowed as they came near. Jem slid from the saddle and ran straight for Annis to catch her in a hug. She held him for a moment and then turned to look warily at Jordell above them. The mystics fanned out into a line, with Jordell and Vivian at their center. Jordell's eyes went back and forth from Lauren to Zane, but Vivian looked only at the wizard. Her glare was icy, the muscles in her jaw spasming. The other 5 mystics remained silent and still, faces grim. Each had a hand on their sword hilt. Lauren wondered if any were wizards, or if they were mage hunters, as Jordell had once been. "I grow weary of chasing you across the 9 lands, Zane," said Jordell. "As I grow weary of running," said Zane. "It seems we would both be better served if you ceased your pursuit. Turn around and ride back to Wellmont, especially you, Lauren of the family Nelda. I mean to leave this place and all of you behind. Nothing will sway my mind." Jordell sighed. Lauren thought she saw sadness in his eyes. "Alas, I cannot allow you to do that." "What is all this talk of allowing?" said Zane, growing angry. "You and the girl both seem to have grand ideas of what I may or may not do at your command. How exactly do you mean to stop me?" "I would rather not have to," said Jordell, "but we will if we must. If you do not choose to aid me, you will be executed as a rogue wizard. You have attacked Vivian twice now, which is cause enough for your punishment. Mayhap you will escape us today, mayhap not. But if you refuse to join me, you will find no safety in any land where the mystics hold sway." "Please, though, refuse him," said Vivian. "I would happily see you destroyed." "You would have done the same in Wellmont," said Zane. "Yet it did not work then. No matter how often I teach you the lesson, you forget that you are as powerless as a child against me. If I must dole out your punishment again, so be it." But you will see I am not alone, said Vivian with a smirk, and I will happily command my companions to kill you. They have no fondness for wizards. Jordell turned an angry look on Vivian. You are too eager for a fight, and it ill becomes you. Keep your tongue still, if you cannot keep it civil. Turning back to Zane, he spoke calmly once more. Zane, I offer you this last chance. Honor your agreement with me. You saw the wisdom in my words when we spoke in Wellmont, and I know in my heart that your promise was no deception. If you have reconsidered since, then consider again. I know you see the wisdom in joining me. Doubtless you think my mind will change when swayed by your threats, said Zane. But I see no wisdom in pledging myself to a doomed cause. Mayhap you will succeed, but I think it is more likely that you and all who fight beside you will be consumed. I will not choose that fate, not while another depends on me. All I wish for is my life back and my son. Will you deny that is a just desire? I will not, said Jordell, nor will I deny its fulfillment. My offer still stands in full. Your son will be restored to you, and all your crimes against the king's law pardoned. No one else will give you better terms. Zane did not answer for a moment. His brow furrowed, the corners of his mouth turned down in a scowl, but his eyes appeared thoughtful. Say yes, thought Lauren. Accept Jordell's terms, and let us put this matter behind us. Jordell seemed to sense Zane's hesitation, for he leaned forwards earnestly. Take the course of wisdom. You know the calamity that threatens us all. Mayhap you and your son can escape, but I do not think so. Where will you flee when darkness descends upon all the 9 lands? Will you live your life in fear and flight, or will you do your part to keep that terror from others? The air hung silent. The hairs on Lauren's arm and neck tingled as she awaited the wizard's response. Before Zane could speak, one of the mystics cried, Riders! The air rang with drawn steel, and as one the mystics turned their horses, all but Jordell, who kept his eyes on Zane. Lauren turned to the western hills where Jordell and Vivian had emerged but a moment before. A company of horsemen with lances and armor was riding hard and fast towards them. Mystic, Chapter 39. To arms! Cried Vivian. I count at least 20 of them, mayhap 3, reported one of the mystics. They had formed a line, bravely facing the oncoming riders, but each of them wore only a short chainmail shirt under their red cloak. The approaching riders were bedecked in plate and mail, and their lances were long and sharp, glittering in the early sunlight. Jordell grew exasperated as Zane still refused to answer, so he wheeled his horse around to survey the riders. What are they doing here so far ahead of the main host? It is as though they search for something. Annis gave Lauren a pointed look, and Lauren cleared her throat. I am afraid they may be hunting me. Well, you must understand our circumstances. I have nearly run out of patience for your foolishness, said Jordell in a voice of steel. Tell me what happened, and quickly. The mercenaries have suffered a catastrophe, said Lauren, raising her chin in defiance. Their horses stampeded through their camp, for their tethers were cut, and they were driven to madness. I had a hand in it. Of course you did, said Jordell. He raised his exasperated gaze to the sky and muttered a prayer she could not hear. I would have had no problems if you were not here, said Lauren angrily. I could have hidden from them easily, but the 7 of you in your red cloaks stick out on the landscape like roses. Be silent, said Vivian. The sellswords had broken into a gallop now, their horses leaping across the empty plain. This is not the time for your prattling, for it will not stay their hands. I do not understand, said Jordell quietly. Our scouts told us the mercenaries approached from the east, by the road that runs along the Dragon's Tail. Lauren and I saw them ourselves. They should not be this far west. Lauren shrugged. I saw them, They were encamped to the west, and their host has grown by many hundreds since last you and I saw them." Jordell shot her a look. "Many hundreds? No, that is not possible. He looked to Zane. "And where are you going, wizard?" Lauren turned to see Zane backing away slowly. At Jordell's words he stopped, glaring. "Your company seems an unhealthy place to be at present. I would take my leave." "We did not grant you leave," said Vivian. "There are many horsemen, and without your help they might overrun us. Then they will come after you, and you will have less help than if you lend your strength now. Even a wizard so great as you might struggle with such numbers on the open field." Zane scowled at her. "Mind your own affairs, witch." But he came forwards, glowering. He shot Lauren a dark look from beneath his brows. "This is your fault, girl. None of us would be in this mess if you did not try to scamper off in the darkness every chance you got," she said. "Stand for once and act with honor." "Says the would-be thief," muttered Jem. Lauren cuffed him on the back of his head, but gently. "I will help drive them off," said Zane, "but not at the side of mystics. I will strike from atop that hill." Lauren caught a curious expression on his face, and she thought she understood. Thus far, the mystics had not seen his eyes glow black from the mage stones. Zane meant to separate himself from them so that detail might remain unseen. "Your choice is your own, but I think you go to too much trouble." Vivian swung a leg over her saddle and dropped lightly to the ground. 70 could not trouble the both of us together." Zane ran to the hilltop. The mercenaries were almost upon them by the time he climbed it, but once the wizards struck, the skirmish became a one-sided battle. Vivian attacked first. Her fingers clutched at the air as she pulled at nothing. Riders jerked from their saddles, but they did not fall backwards. Instead, Vivian pulled them forward so they tumbled over their horses' necks. They fell to the ground and were trampled. Broken and twisted bodies mashed to pulp beneath the hooves of their fellow riders' mounts. It made Lauren's stomach lurch, and Jem turned his face away. Again Vivian swiped at the air, and many of the horses' legs snapped like twigs. They went down, crushing their riders and downing the horses behind as well. The air rang with the screams of beasts and soldiers. Lauren gritted her teeth at the senseless death, but it hardly felt like the right time to reprimand Vivian. She did not know what the mystics intended to do with her. Then Zane joined the fight. A wall of flame 30 paces long sprang up on the grassy field. It was dozens of paces ahead of the cavalry, and they had plenty of time to rein their mounts to a stop. Many of the horses bolted in fear at the heat of the flames, their riders cursing and shouting as they tried to regain control. Hardly a dozen riders still remained, trying to urge their horses through the roaring flames. But Zane waved his hand and cried aloud, and bolts of lightning struck the ground on all sides of the riders. Their last shreds of discipline vanished, and the horses screamed in terror as they bolted away. Zane let the flames die out, and the field was empty, save for the broken bodies Vivian had cast down. Vivian growled in anger and struck again and again, pulling a few more fleeing horsemen from their saddles, but many escaped, disappearing into the hills and out of sight. "You fool!" she cried to Zane as he came back down the hill. "Why did you let them escape? Now they will warn the host to our presence." "Let us say I have a sympathetic heart for a runaway," said Zane. "It matters little," said Jordell, "for we shall not be here when the Dorshan sellswords return. For the moment, Zane, we all must flee, and whether we end up in Feldamar as I wish, or the High King's seat as you aim, east is our best choice at present. Will you at least ride with us until this danger has passed?" Zane looked as if he might refuse, but Lauren glared at him and stepped forwards. "You will, wizard, for you and I have not finished our words, and if you think I will give you a horse without your promise to come with us, you are sorely mistaken." "Very well, then, since you leave me little choice," said Zane. "Your company is harder to part with than an infestation of lice. Lead on, mystic, for now." Everyone mounted, Annis in front of Lauren atop her black horse, and Zane on the chestnut steed. At Jordel's command, the mystics spurred their horses, and off they rode together. This has been a production of Legacy Books, written and narrated by Garrett Robinson. The music in this podcast was created by Will Musser. Check out his incredible work at willmusser.com. That's WILLMUSSER.com. Today's letter is U. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.